On Sunday night, it was the 97th Academy Awards, which saw a whole host of surprises go down, not least of all Sean Baker winning 4 awards himself. That's more than anyone else ever has for the one film, and Anora stealing Best Picture. Now, Jake and I thought that it would be good fun if we went through the list of films nominated for Best Picture and gave them our own personal ranking. So Jake, as far as you're concerned, what's in number 10 in this position? What's the worst film on this list?
Emilia Perez. Emilia Perez, terrible. We'll get into it a bit more later, but yes, absolute dead last for me. It was a bit of a... The next one's a bit more of a toss-up, but yes, I watched or finished watching Emilia Perez last night, and I was shocked how it got 13 nominations. There's been a lot of controversy. There's been a lot of negativity towards this film. I feel my negativity is in a different place, but yes, dead last for me. Reuben, what about yourself?
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement, actually. Emilia Perez is in 10th place for me. I think that it has good bits. I think it's broadly well made, but it's got some huge narrative issues, and my goodness, its politics, I don't agree with them. So, Jake, tell me then, what was your number 9 on the list of Best Picture nominees?
My number 9 is going to upset our producer, upset you. It's going to upset all those Catholics out there. Conclave is my number 9. I was tossing this up between my number 8 position. I was like, I just really didn't like it. And the more I think about it, the more people tell me I'm wrong. I just hate it more and more. I just have, it has lots of good things going for it, but I think the main problem is I do not care for the story. I don't really care for the characters, and therefore I don't care really what they're doing either. Sort of the Catholic Church is what it is. But oh well, I'm so sorry, world. You can hate me. I'm sorry, BAFTA. I'm sorry, Ray Fiennes. I'm sorry. It's my number 9. I don't like it. Okay?
Okay, well, you'll be shocked to hear that I do not agree with you. I think Conclave is a very good film, and it certainly is going to be higher on the list for me. My number 9 is a film which I thought was completely and utterly okay. It's so unbelievably mediocre that it barely exists. It's Timothée Chalamet in his Please Give Me an Oscar performance as Bob Dylan in A Complete Unknown. I think this film is so unbelievably okay that it's boring. It's not even that interesting to talk about because it's fine. He's not great. The film is well made. James Mangold is a very good director. It's Oscar bait and it's boring.
Well, you'll be pleased to know that I follow your ranking with number 8, A Complete Unknown. The only way it sort of clinched above Conclave for me was that I like Bob Dylan's music, and it was sang. And sang well? No. Played well? Well, the production was okay. The rest of the film, as Reuben said, is very by the numbers, very bland. Yeah, the best thing that came from it is that I'm listening to more Bob Dylan, the real Bob Dylan, and that is great. So listen to Bob Dylan.
I feel like that's a win. I actually think that the filmmakers would be quite pleased with that review because I agree, it made me want to listen to some Bob Dylan. But yeah, it's a complete nothing in my opinion. A complete nothing, not a complete unknown.
Yes, Reuben, you're right. A complete nothing. But I'm going to ask you, what's in your number 8 spot?
So I think for me, this is where it starts getting tricky because I start to really like the film. So I think in number 8, it's Wicked. Because I loved this film. I thought it was completely joyous. I thought it was... Actually, no, I'm not. It's not Wicked. It's Conclave. It's Conclave. Number 8 is Conclave. Conclave is good. Conclave is really well made. Excellent direction by Edward Berger. Really good writing by Peter Strawn. I'm delighted he won Best Adapted Screenplay. It's just on a different level from the others to me. It's really good. It's a 4-star film. I think it's brilliantly written. It doesn't have the special magic that it takes to get into the top 7, is what I'd say. So at number 8 for me, it's Conclave.
At number 7 is The Brutalist for me. This is the thing. When I was thinking about the ranking before we did our Oscars review itself, is that, well, when I think about it more and more, I'm like, I loved it in the moment. Then when I sit with it, I'm like, that went on for a long time, and there were much more films, many films on this list that I enjoyed much, much more. I think there are stellar performances, especially by Adrian Brody. I think the score, which won the Oscar, is definitely great, one of the best on this list. But something was off, when I was thinking about it. It's kind of like, would I sit and watch it again? No, I don't think I would. I think I got what I could get from it, I think, when I watched it the first time, and it's a very interesting experience. But, there were some films that really broke through and really tickled my fancy. And so, yeah, sadly, The Brutalist, even though we raved about it in our review, is lower in the list than it probably should be. So sorry, everyone. Don't spit your gum at me.
That's an absolute scandal, Jake. I can't believe you're putting The Brutalist at number 7. For me, the number 7 slot, and I really, really like this film, I think is Anora. I really liked it. I thought it was great. I think Mikey Madison's terrific in that role. I think Sean Baker is a great director. I like his work. But it didn't emotionally connect with me in the way that the other films on this list did. So for that reason, I'm putting it at number 7.
So now we get to number 6. What a good number. This one's interesting because I'm surprised this film got nominated. I am not surprised it didn't win, because sci-fi often gets overlooked these days. We had that great era where Mad Max Fury Road was nominated, and Shape of Water and all this sort of stuff. It felt like this, but it never had a chance amongst these other titans. But Dune Part 2 is my number 6. Because I really like the first Dune, and I also like the David Lynch Dune, to be honest. That's a controversial opinion.
That is a controversial take.
But yeah, so I really like Part 1. I think Part 1 layered a lot of what is good in Part 2. I actually think Part 2 is a bit of a step down, but no one on this planet agrees with me, so...
Yeah, you're wrong. That's why. That's an insane take. Part 2 is a masterpiece.
I think Part 2 is very good. I think that what I really like about Part 1 is sort of a bit more of the traversing the worlds. I prefer the way the music's used, the score, but the score is both good. You should listen to it as one whole. But I really love the score pieces, the alien bagpipes for the sort of space Celtics. I love that piece of music. That's not the name. Sorry, Hans Zimmer. That's not the name of your music.
Hans is grinding his knuckles in fury.
He's got enough money and enough Oscars. Whatever. But, what I really did like about Part 2 is just Austin Butler's performance alone was really riveting. I thought his sort of dispatching and the conclusion of the film didn't really play up to the sort of great way he's introduced, great way they sort of showcase his character through the film. And I think there's some great choices, and it's just a great ensemble cast. Rebecca Ferguson is always amazing and continues to be. Florence Pugh shows up, and that always makes us smile because she's stellar in everything she does, even if she's only there for 5 minutes. So sorry, Dune Part 2, you are good, but you are only my number 6.
I can't believe that you would put Dune at number 6. I think it's a modern sci-fi masterpiece. But to be honest, I feel bad for my number 6, because my number 6 is Nickel Boys, a film which I think is practically perfect, completely beautiful, really, really emotional, and it's an unbelievably bold piece of filmmaking, literally advancing the way that we think about cinema and what it can do. So much of it is shot using this point of view technique that I thought was really powerful. It really grounds you in the characters' feelings and in their experiences, because you're literally viewing the world through their eyes, and I thought it was unbelievably brilliant. But I like it less than the other 5 things on this list, so it's at number 6. So what cracks your top 5, Jake? What's so good that it can put Dune at number 6?
Okay, so you just talked about Nickel Boys, but that is my number 5. I really enjoyed the film. I don't know why it hasn't been talked about more. I don't know why it's got its Best Picture nomination, but then stumm. Absolutely nothing. really, barely a trailer. I've seen two, and I've seen the film, maybe two trailers once, maybe once I saw the Nickel Boys trailer. No one's talking about it. It's such a great film. And I do love the way that the filmmaking is different. I like that it's pushing it. I like that it's exposing the story that needs to be told. I just think the central performances are stellar. I was just fully immersed in it. I love the sound design. I love the random shots of space and sky. I love it. It to all around, as I said, it's a nice piece of poetry and nice piece of historical fiction, and telling an inspired story of something that was truly horrific, but doing it in a way that can connect to people who are so disconnected from it. I felt incredibly connected to the struggles of these characters. I think, there are films, the four above this, I loved much more. But Nickel Boys itself, it deserves more than it's been given. It really is a true piece of filmmaking, and, the creators will go far. And people, go see it, Go watch it, please. What's your number 5?
I think, and again, it pains me to say it, I think that this is Wicked, because I completely loved that film. Made me cry a lot, made me feel inspired, made me laugh. I think Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande are unbelievably great. I wish they'd had more of a shot in this award season, because they really deserve it. The songs are magnificent. The staging, the set design is extraordinary. It is geniusly directed by John M. Chu, and it almost gets all stolen away by Jonathan Bailey being the most charming man in human history. So I adore Wicked. It was the Christmas feel-good hit of this winter, but it's at number 5 for me. With that being said, we move into the really big leagues, and it's, for me, a hair's breadth between all of these films. What's your number 4 on this list of Best Picture nominees, Jake?
See, we're sort of tailing each other, because my number 4 is Wicked. I loved Wicked. I thought, you and I got to see it together, Reuben.
We did.
I really enjoyed it. I think Ariana Grande was snubbed. I think, she wasn't snubbed. She got the nomination, but I think she was. It was stolen from her. She didn't get much of a look in, but was truly spectacular. I think comedy is so overlooked in these categories. Comedy and horror, so overlooked. We've had some representation of it, but no real success stories this Oscar season. I really enjoyed it. The musical, it means something to my family. I really enjoyed it. I think the way it was done, I really... as much as I have some problems with the film, I went away feeling that, wow, they did such a great job with such a difficult musical to pull off, and they really did pull it off. So, that's why it's number 4. I'm thinking, when I looked back through this list, when I look back at all these films that I watched, which ones really engaged me, which ones did I enjoy, in any sense of the term enjoy, and yes, Wicked, number 4. But what's your number 4, Reuben?
My number 4 is a brilliant Brazilian film. It's I'm Still Here. We talked about it last week. It's an astonishing piece of work. It's so powerful. I cried a lot. You'll notice a theme here. It is an important story. It is brilliantly well told. And it features an amazing performance by Fernanda Torres. I think she'd have been a very, very worthy Best Actress winner at the Oscars last weekend. I think it's genuinely one of the best films of the year. The Academy didn't get this wrong. And it's honestly, I think, a film that is going to stand the test of time too. Not least because it is doing a really good job of grappling with a subject matter that's really sensitive and easy to get wrong, I think. So I'm Still Here is my number 4 pick.
And my number 3 is I'm Still Here.
We're so in sync.
I know, we're in sync. We really are in sync. I really love the film. I think Fernanda Torres was excellent. I do agree that Mikey Madison deserved to win, but it was a very razor thin between Fernanda Torres and Mikey Madison. I think no one else really had a shoe-in compared to those two. I would have been happy either way. I'm so glad that it won Best International Film. Yeah, it's a stellar film. Reuben's right, it deals with such a harsh topic. I recommended it to my mum. That's one of the big things we say on this show. I recommend it to my mum. I said, this film is for you, Mum. You're going to love it. It's historical. It's got great performances. She'll probably cry. She'll love it. That's a badge of true honor for a film to be worthy of my mother's viewership. Yeah, absolutely stellar. I'm so glad it had this resurgence. That sort of what Nickel Boys missed out on. What they sort of the alternate effect is happening. You know, I'm Still Here is getting the recognition it deserves. It really is brilliant. Go see the film. So, Reuben, what is your number 3?
All of these films are nailed-on masterpieces, in my opinion. At number 3, it's Dune Part 2. You put this way down the list because you're insane. This is genuinely a masterpiece. I think it's Denis Villeneuve's best film. It is brain-melting in its imagination. It is a realization of sci-fi unlike anything you've ever seen before. And it takes the characters and it takes the worlds and the storylines and the themes of the first film, and it turns them into something even more colossal. It is epic in every sense of the word, and it looks like $1 billion. It looks extraordinary. It's shot by Greg Fraser, probably the best cinematographer, aside from Roger Deakins working today. I just adored it. I felt like I was watching Lawrence of Arabia. I felt like I was watching a true kind of wartime epic, but if it was set on a desert planet with sandworms and Timothée Chalamet giving a genuinely inspired performance as someone who is rising into this kind of terrible, fateful hero / villain role that they're terrified of, but they can't escape from. I genuinely adored it. It's Shakespearean at times. It features an amazing turn by Rebecca Ferguson. And it has the great excitement of ending perfectly in its own right, but also in a way that teases a follow-up, Dune Messiah, which we know is in the works. I can't wait for part 3. I think it's genuinely, if part 3 is as good as 1 and 2 have been, this is a movie trilogy for the ages.
Now we're on our final 2. So this was late viewership for me, which is very, very... both were, actually. Both of the last films in my list were late viewership, and I'm ashamed that I didn't catch them when they first both came out. But I was able to see both these films in the cinema. But my number 2, anyone who knows me will completely understand why I love this film. But The Substance, what a movie. What a movie. My second best of this roster. It is goofy as hell, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was like Stuart Gordon movies of old, Reanimator, From Beyond, things that I truly, truly love. Just absolutely barbarically insane, and yet has great social commentary. But it doesn't take itself too seriously. It has an absolutely ridiculous ending akin to Stephen King, I'll say. People who've seen it will probably understand. You know, the sort of visual, you know, it's almost obvious in its slight parody. It's obvious in its references. There's references to The Shining very obviously, in its carpet and its use of fake blood. I truly, truly loved it. I loved the strange creature design, and you know, I loved the just everything. It was just goofy. I thought it was a great example of film excess on film, and also ended brilliantly. Someone in the cinema went, "Good God," when it was over, and I was like, okay, that wasn't for them, but for me, absolutely 1000% yes. Love it. That's my number 2. Great film. Didn't get much award, but because it won't, because it's just a crazy horror movie, and you know, people don't respect it, but I'm glad it was nominated in this list, because it is both simultaneously the most expensive, cheapest film I've ever seen, because it has that beautiful quality that I love in classic 80s and 70s horror movies, where, you know, everyone's trying their best, but it kind of still looks a bit naff. But it also looks brilliantly. It also looks brilliant at the same time. I think, what a great line. It just reminds me of all those great films. Basket Case is another series it reminds me of. I just love all these references to all this crap that only I've seen. I love it. Great film. Absolutely amazing. Love it. Go see it. Go see it and be disgusted. Absolutely. So, Reuben, what's your number two? Your Virgil Tracy. What's your number two?
Well, I'm joining on the love-in for The Substance. I completely adored this film, but I have to say I'm not sure I'll ever watch it again. So upsetting did I find it. I can't remember the last time that a film just sort of seized me by the throat and sort of pinned me down like this movie does. It is not subtle. You're absolutely right. It wields social commentary like a claw hammer, but it's genuinely an astonishing piece of work. Coralie Farjat is a visionary filmmaker as far as I'm concerned. I think she's a genius. I think Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley are both truly astonishing in their roles. I think I'm saying the word astonishing too many times, but I can't understate how much I love this film. It's Dorian Gray if it was suffused with the elixir of Jekyll and Hyde. It's genius. It's horrible. The prosthetics are disturbing in the extreme. And it wields, as I say, this kind of horribly hilarious at times social commentary brilliantly that tips into tragedy so expertly. It has this sweeping opera that is unlike anything that you'll see this year, next year, or perhaps ever again. It's surely an instant classic, one for the books, and I really, really can't wait to see what Coralie Farjat makes next, because if it's anything like this, it will be mind-blowing. And so, Jake, we finally come to number one. What is, in your opinion, the best pick of the Best Picture nominees of this year?
Well, I'm afraid to be boring, but the Academy got it right. The best film for me is Anora. I think how much I loved this film whilst watching it in the cinema was more than any of these other films. Absolutely. I truly did adore The Substance. I truly adored a lot of these films. Not Emilia Perez. But Anora is absolutely stellar. It's so well made. It's so well edited. I'm not sure if we talked about that in our review. And, Sean Baker deserved to win that award too, because it's seamless. It's just perfect. It's perfect for me. It's such an interesting collection of little the through line of the film is so interesting, as I said in our review, and I'll try not to repeat myself too much, but it's like two films stitched together, and I love that aspect of it. I love how unique it is. I love all the performances. It's absolutely stellar. It deserved the rapturous support from the Academy. I'm so glad that it swept the Oscars. If anything deserved it, it was the underdog, an underdog for independent film, an underdog for a clear created vision, not really polluted by production houses who think they know better. I think, and it deserves, young, youthful, and exciting performances. It's just a great beacon for the future as well for a filmmaker. It really is, and I adored it. I'm so glad it won. It's my number one of the Oscars season. Now, Reuben, I know people who have been keeping a close eye to our lists, even though we've been talking in random tangents, as we often do, can probably guess what your number one is, but let's hear you talk about it. What is your number one?
My best picture for this year is Luca Guadagnino's Challenges. No, sadly, insanely, it wasn't nominated despite being genuinely a masterpiece. But in the number one spot, we have another masterpiece, and that was nominated, so it's okay. We have Brady Corbet's The Brutalist. What an astonishing film. The poster says monumental 5 times, and rightly so. This is an absolutely astonishing film. I can't believe that it exists, and I especially can't believe that it exists on a budget of $11 million. I said it in our review at the time. It is a miracle that film exists, and I will say it again. What Brady Corbet manages to do on a tiny budget is more than most filmmakers can ever dream to accomplish in their lifetimes. It is a masterpiece. It features astonishing performances by Adrian Brody, Felicity Jones, many, many more. Guy Pearce is brilliant in it. It is moving, it is thought-provoking, and it tells its story in this very unconventional way across, yes, a long runtime, but in a way that keeps you completely wrapped. And frankly, I'm all for the reintroduction of intermissions in films on the basis of this, because it was so great to have a little break halfway through, go and get some coffee and talk to all of the other cinema goers and, connect with them and get their thoughts on the film. So I think this is, like Anora, another really, really important step for Hollywood. It's a small budget film that creates very, very, very big stories. And that's exactly where I think it needs to go. It's a miracle and I love it. Number one is The Brutalist.